Let's move on to the next slide. Let's see some history behind React Native. So first thing is, when was React Native launched? So in March 2015, it was launched by Facebook. We already learned about that who developed React Native. Facebook engineers developed React Native. It is open source. Uh, Open source means the large audience can contribute to the bug fixes and enhancements into the product. Cross-platform means we can develop using a single code base, that is the JavaScript code base. And yes, it is the mobile application development framework. So it was launched in 2015, and in April 2015 it was made officially open sourced, so that people can contribute to it and people can use React Native into their own applications. The next major update was January 2016, when the React Native launched version 0.18. Now this 0.18 was having very significant improvements in the navigation support. Before this thing, the navigation support was not very efficient in React Native, wasn't very smooth in React Native. But after this 0.18 update got introduced, this navigation support and performance enhancements were stabilized in React Native. The next major update was September 2018, where if I talk majorly about, it was the hooks API. Now before these hooks, there are two types of components in React. One is class-based components and the other one is function-based components. So into the class-based components, there were many methods available for maintaining the life cycle of a particular component, and also there was state available inside class-based components. Function-based components were just used for UI stuff and not much for the logic part of the application. For the logic part, as the state and all the methods were only available into class-based components, these components only were getting used for the logic-based part of the application and not the function components. Even if the function components were very easy to write, very easy to read also, the class-based components were getting implemented. But after React introduced this hooks API, hooks, if I talk superficially about, hooks are just some functions which let these function components hook into the state of a component. So after these hooks API, these function components were also able to create states and manage the life cycle of a component. We were able to do the rendering of the component and we were able to handle the mounting of the component and then unmounting. Mounting and unmounting is like, suppose there is the component, this gets loaded to the screen of a mobile device. This is known as mounting. Then while it is being loaded, there is some updation. So this is known as component updation. Then when it gets removed from the screen, it is known as unmounting of the component. So all of these things were manageable by the class-based components before the hooks API, and after the hooks API, these functions made us hook into these states and these functions so that we can manage all of these things via the function-based components also using these functions. So this was a major update, September 2018, where the hooks API was introduced in a React Native. After this, the next major update was March 2019, where Facebook announced the major architecture update, that was Fabric. And this architecture update was to improve the performance and providing more modular architecture. Now, this fabric was, let me remove all of these things. Before the fabric architecture or before the JSI architecture, there was the architecture bridge in React Native. So suppose this is the JavaScript or the UI side part of the code, and this is the native side of the code. I mean, if it is Android or iOS, it is the iOS or Android side, and it is the JavaScript side. So whenever something happens on this code, first serialization occurs and it goes to Android and iOS. Then here deserialization occurs or decoding occurs. It understands what this code means, it implements the logic or whatever is there, and then serialize it again and sends it to the native side. Sends it to the JavaScript side, and then JavaScript side deserialize or decodes again. So this was the bridge architecture of React Native. This had many implications and many complications, I should say, and this architecture was causing many delays using this serialization and deserialization stuff. So this fabric was introduced with this JSI architecture that aimed into the performance improvement and modular architecture. We will learn about the delays and everything in the later slides, where we understand the bridging concept even more, and also we will learn what this fabric is solving. Basically, it is exposing all the native side features to the JavaScript using the object reference. So now everything is made available to this JavaScript side using the object reference. So there is no need of bridge now. Using that reference object, this JavaScript side can directly access these native side functions. Let's mark it native and let's mark it JavaScript. So now this JavaScript side is directly accessing these native side features without the middle bridge in between them. So it is to some extent or to much extent, it is reducing that delays that were caused by the bridge. After this update, there was April 2020 update when React Native launched 0.62 version. Now this introduced the fast refresh feature, which replaced the hot reloading feature. Now hot reloading feature helps us to uh, make the code changes, and those code changes are directly reflecting into the UI or wherever your application is running on your mobile devices. It helps us to see those changes as soon as we make the code change. We don't need to rebuild our application. We can just make the change, save it, and yes, the change gets reflected into the UI. But this hot reloading features was broken a bit, and this fast refresh feature got introduced in April 2020, where suppose we are having a tree like this. This is the parent component, then these are the children. So this fast refresh was even more optimized feature of hot reloading. For suppose we are developing and we just made some change to this child. So this fast refresh is going to reload only this child while development, and uh, will make the changes reflect to this child on the screen as soon as we make the change on the code. So this was about fast refresh, which replaced hot reloading because it was kind of broken before this version. The next update was September 2021, where React Native 0.65, it was the stable release of React Native with many performance improvements and major improvements in the debugging section this time. So React DevTools extension was enhanced too much to debug the React Native applications. Many more tools are also available for debugging these React Native applications. For example, uh, Flipper is available to us, and React Native Debugger is also available to us. So yes, we can also use them. Not much of uh, the sense to explain those here. We we can just see the history in this section. So this was about the historical context of React Native.